ជំរាបសួរបងប្អូននេះគឺជាហាងឆេងមាសនៅថ្ងៃទី29ខែធ្នូចិត្តដាច់ឆ្នាំហើយតម្លៃនេះគឺ$219ជាងបន្តិចតើទៅជាមួយនឹងតម្លៃម្សិលមិញចុះបន្តិចដែរសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាថ្ងៃនេះមានរបាយការណ៍ពិសេសមួយតែដកស្រង់ពីគីកូដែលនិយាយអំពីអនាគតរបស់មាសនិងអនាគតរបស់លុយដុល្លារនៅក្នុងភាពច្បុកច្បល់ហើយខ្ញុំជឿថាវាពិសេសមែនបងប្អូនអាចទស្សនានៅក្នុងវីដេអូហ្នឹងហើយយើងនឹងនិយាយខ្លះៗដែលពេលខ្លះវារៀង dramatic ប៉ុន្តែយើងអាចនិយាយថាវា logic មួយចំនួនធំតែម្ដងហើយសម្រាប់យ៉ាក្រាបរបស់យើងអាចមើលនៅក្នុងនេះបានគឺមានការធ្លាក់ហើយនឹងឡើងមកពេញសម្រាប់តម្លៃមាសថ្ងៃនេះនៅក្នុងស្រុកតំណងជានឹងស្ថិតនៅក្នុងរង្វង់220មក221និង218សូមស្ដាប់បទយកការបន្តិច
Editor of the goldforecast.com is back with us for the last time of 2022, and he will be giving his outlook for the gold price for 2023. Gary, welcome back. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We're speaking before Christmas, but this will probably air afterwards. So thank you for joining us during the holidays.
Thanks so much for having me, David.
In one word, Gary, describe the gold market for 2022.
Resilient. We had, of course, the high of the year occur from January up till March. And then really from March all the way down till September, we saw a massive decline going to 1621. And it's really taken off from there, now above 1,800 per ounce.
All right. Well, explain to us what happened over the last 2 to 3 months. We've had a steady upward trend ever since the end of September, really. Stocks have also reflated since then, although the long-term trend for stocks has also been down. So what happened over the last 2 months? What has been propelling this bullish momentum?
Well, it's been the market sentiment shifting about the actions of the Federal Reserve. Of course, this month's rate hike was 50 basis points as opposed to a consecutive amount of 75 basis point rate hikes. And that's what shook the market. And the sense from market participants is that the Fed is going to slow the pace of rate hikes.
Mm-hmm. I can't help but notice, Gary, that since inflation peaked in June, there's been a kind of a correlation between the decline in the CPI and the decline in the gold price. Now, as you know, that gold has been trending down ever since April, but CPI has also done so as well. It peaked in June at 9.1%, and it's been every consecutive reading has been lower than the last. Right now, we're at 7.1 was the latest reading. You know, that trend broke in the last 2 months because, as you know, the CPI continued to trend down while gold went up rather. Is there a relationship there? Has gold, the expectations for the gold price fallen because inflation expectations have fallen?
Well, what you're getting is market sentiment is always ahead of real-time data. So when you see bullishness in gold, that is the fact that market participants are under the belief that interest rates will either peak or begin to come down. Of course, we heard from Chairman Powell emphatically that don't look for rates to come down at least throughout 2023. So what you're observing, David, is simply that market participants are acting ahead of real-time data.
Market participants are acting ahead of real-time data. And so what are they expecting exactly for 2023 in terms of, let's start with Fed policy.
Well, originally, there was a large bullish consensus that we might see interest rates not only peak, but to begin to diminish, start to ratchet them down. That has diminished from market sentiment and diminished from the Fed talk. In other words, the statement that was released at the last meeting and the updated dot plot. And I believe that's what is most important because that showed a unanimous consensus by the 19 members that add their dot to the economic projections of 23, 24, and 25. Really indicated a much more hawkish Federal Reserve than market participants had hoped for. And that's what I mean.
Okay. And in terms of the Fed's reaction to inflation, well, first of all, let's get your update on inflation. Do you think that this downward trend will continue over 2023? And then we can talk about how the Fed might respond to this.
Absolutely. All the data that we have seen really points to the fact that the tools that the Federal Reserve have been implementing, which have been twofold: one, raising interest rates, and then two, working with their balance sheet and by contracting it, taking liquidity out of the market, have had an effect. And that effect has transitioned over into what we're seeing in the markets. Governments facing.
All right, so it seems to me we have a problem, Gary. What is your inflation? Let's go back to that question then. What is your inflationary outlook for 2023?
Well, I think that it will remain elevated. I think that they will have a dramatic impact on certain sectors of inflationary pressures. But things like energy and food are really troublesome to the Federal Reserve, because no matter what they do in terms of their tools, how high they raise interest rates, they're not going to have any kind of dramatic impact on food and energy costs. Now, where they have had a big impact, of course, is the fact that housing itself, by raising rates, they're making mortgages harder to come by, and they're trying to stabilize the cost of housing. So they have had some input there, but they can't control how food costs in terms of pricing goes up or down, and they cannot control energy. And that's the quandary they're in, and the problem that they're facing, that they know they cannot solve alone without some government input, whatever that is. And obviously what it is to not spend as much as they do.
នៅក្នុងបទយកការនេះមានច្រើនហើយកន្លែងខ្លះយើងថតទៅកន្លែងខ្លះក៏យើងមិនបានថតទៅហើយមានកន្លែងមួយចំនួនក៏វាលំអិតតែម្ដងតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងដើមឆ្នាំ2022នេះអ្នកវិភាគបាននិយាយថាវាមានភាពស្ងប់ស្ងាត់តម្លៃមានរក្សាដដែលអញ្ចឹងប៉ុន្តែវានឹងមានការផ្លាស់ប្ដូរខ្លាំងបំផុតនៅក្នុងឆ្នាំ2023ដោយសារក្នុងឆ្នាំ2023ដោយអ្នកសម្ភារគាត់សួរទៅអ្នកទៅសេចវិទូថានឹងមានរឿងអីកើតឡើងពីព្រោះថាឆ្នាំ2023ហ្នឹងត្រូវបានគេទូទាយថាសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកមិនអាចឲ្យតម្លៃការប្រាក់រហូតដល់ 5% ទេគឺជាតម្លៃការខ្ពស់ហើយរងការខូចខាតបំផុតក្នុងហ្នឹងអ្នកវិភាគក៏បាននិយាយថាមានការបោះពុម្ពលុយដាក់វាចូលឲ្យបោះពុម្ពលុយចូលនៅក្នុងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចរបស់សហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកអញ្ចឹងចាប់ពីខែទី3ខែមីនាទៅសេដ្ឋកិច្ចនឹងដាក់បញ្ចូលនៅលុយថ្មីដោយសារតែសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនៅក្នុងខែ3មានរឿងពីរទី1គាត់នឹងរក្សា inflation ឲ្យនៅសភាពដដែលហើយរក្សាហើយបញ្ចុះមកវិញនៅអត្រាការប្រាក់ប៉ុន្តែបើក្នុងករណីតម្លៃប្រេងដែលវានឹងហក់ឡើងនៅក្នុងឆ្នាំ2023នឹងមានឡើងខ្លាំងវាធ្វើឲ្យ energy ឡើងខ្លាំងគ្រប់អ្វីនៅសហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកនឹងខ្លាំងទាំងអស់ថ្លៃទាំងអស់ចង់មិនចង់គឺនឹងធ្វើការដំឡើងការអត្រាការប្រាក់រហូតដល់ 5.5% ហើយបោះពុម្ពលុយចូលបន្ថែមនៅក្នុងខែទី3រហូតដល់ខែទី9យើងនឹងឃើញសភាពខ្លាំងនៃលុយដុល្លារដែលនឹងធ្វើឲ្យតម្លៃមាសមានការចុះថោកខ្លាំងប៉ុន្តែប្រសិនបើនៅក្នុងការបោះពុម្ពលុយនេះវាធ្វើឲ្យលុយហើមហើយវាមិនអាចគ្រប់គ្រងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចបាននោះទេតម្លៃមាសនឹងឡើងខ្លាំងនៅក្នុងខែទី9ឡើងទៅដែលមានសភាពខ្លាំងហើយពិបាកទប់អញ្ចឹងបច្ចុប្បន្នវាស្ថិតនៅក្នុងរឿងពីរដោយគេការនិយាយនៅក្នុងវីដេអូបទសម្ភាសន៍របស់គេបែបហ្នឹងដែលគេទាក់ហើយក៏ផ្សេងដែលយើងអាចដឹងតាក់ទងជាមួយនឹងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចរបស់សហរដ្ឋអាមេរិកដែលកំពុងតែពើប្រទេសរាល់ថ្ងៃមិនមែនមានថាការតម្ឡើងអត្រាការប្រាក់ពី 4% ទៅ 5% ហ្នឹងគឺធ្វើឲ្យគាត់ហ្នឹងរួចខ្លួនទេដូចខ្ញុំជម្រាបថាការឡើងរហូតដល់ 5% គឺអស់ចំណេញបាត់ទៅហើយតែយ៉ាងណាមិញប្រសិនបើអតិផរណានៃការឡើងគឺគាត់ត្រូវតែបោះពុម្ពលុយបន្ថែមដើម្បីគ្រប់គ្រងសេដ្ឋកិច្ចរបស់គាត់ប៉ុន្តែវាប្រឈមមុខនឹងការហើមលុយដូចគ្នាដែរបងប្អូនប្រកាសជាឆ្ងល់ថាវីដេអូសម្ភាសន៍មួយកំណោចូលចង់20នាទីអ្នកនិយាយប្រហែលជា1នាទីជាងខ្ញុំចុចបិចយកអ្វីដែលនិយាយសំខាន់សម្រាប់បងប្អូនទេតែបើបងប្អូនចង់បងប្អូនលំអិតចេះមើលភាសាអង់គ្លេសបងប្អូនអាចមើលខ្លួនឯងបានហើយចូលទៅក្នុង YouTube បងប្អូនវាយពាក្យ Kiko New ទៅនៅក្នុង YouTube ហ្នឹងក៏លោតទៅវីដេអូសម្ភាសន៍ជាច្រើនហើយបើបងប្អូនមានពេលទំនេរស្រាវជ្រាវបន្ថែមបងប្អូនអាចស្ដាប់ម្ដងមួយសម្រាប់ខ្ញុំស្ដាប់អស់ហើយបានខ្ញុំថត ហើយពេលខ្លះវាវែងអន្លាយពេកយើងក៏មិនអាចយកថតទាំងអស់មកដាក់ដុលនៅក្នុង YouTube យើងដែរបើកាលណាយើងធ្វើអញ្ចឹង 100% គឺឆេះហើយ channel ហ្នឹងប្រើការមិនកើតឬក៏ជាប់ copyright មិនអាច load វីដេអូឲ្យបងប្អូនទស្សនាបានបាទយើងនឹងចេញវីដេអូបន្ថែមទៀតតទៅជាមួយតម្លៃមាសនៅក្នុងស្រុកសម្រាប់បងប្អូនដែលចូលចិត្តវីដេអូហើយគិតថាមានប្រយោជន៍សម្រាប់បងប្អូនសូមជួយចុច subscribe ដើម្បីជាការលើកទឹកចិត្តសូមអរគុណសូមជម្រាបលា